emptied me. The path of solitude awaits. 1. T.C. Elimane offered the African authors of my generation, who can't be described as young for much longer, the chance to tear each other limb from limb in pious and bloody literary jousts. His book was both cathedral and arena. We entered it as if entering a god's tomb, and ended up kneeling in our own blood, offered as libation to the masterpiece. A single page was enough to assure us that we were reading a writer. A hapax, one of those celestial bodies that only appear once in the literary heavens. I remember one of the many dinner parties we spent with his book. The discussion grew heated, and Beatrice, the sensual dynamic Beatrice Nanga, who I hoped would one day asphyxiate me between her breasts, had said, ever combative, that only the works of true writers merited venomous debate, that they alone boiled the blood like wood alcohol, and that if, in an attempt to conciliate that flabby, spineless creature we call general opinion, we avoided the impassioned clashes they provoked, we were doing a dishonor to literature itself. A true writer, she had added, sparks fatal disagreements among true readers, who are forever at war. If you're not willing to fight to the death for an author's carcass, like in a game of buzkashi, then fuck off and go drown yourself in that warm puddle of piss you take for quality beer. You're anything but a reader, much less a writer. I had backed Beatrice Nanga in her dramatic charge. T.C. Elimane wasn't classic, he was cult. Literary mythos is a gaming table. Elimane sat at that table and laid down the 3 most powerful trump cards there are. First, he chose a name with mysterious initials. Then he only wrote a single book. Finally, he disappeared without leaving a trace. So yes, it was worth sticking your neck out in an attempt to grab hold of his carcass. It was possible to doubt whether a man named T.C. Elimane had truly existed at one time, or to wonder if that was a pseudonym invented by an author to mess with, or escape, the literary world. No one, however, could have disputed the powerful truth of his book. After reading the final page, violent, pure life would come coursing back through your veins. Knowing if Homer was a real person, yes or no, remains an interesting question. But in the end, it changes little of his readers' marvelment, for it is to Homer, whoever, whatever he was, that the reader owes thanks for having written the Iliad and the Odyssey. Likewise, the person, hoax or legend behind T.C. Elimane mattered little. It was to that name that we were indebted for the work that changed our perspective on literature, perhaps on life. The Labyrinth of Inhumanity, that was its title, and we went to its pages like manatees straight to the water's source. In the beginning, there was a prophecy, and there was a king, and the prophecy told the king that the earth would grant him absolute power, but demand in return the ashes of old men and women, to which the king agreed. He immediately started to burn the elders of his kingdom, before scattering their remains around his palace, where, soon, a forest, a macabre forest, grew, which would be called the Labyrinth of Inhumanity. 2. How did we meet, this book and I? By chance, like everyone else. Though I haven't forgotten what the Spider Mother told me, chance is always merely a fate unknown to us. My first reading of The Labyrinth of Inhumanity is very recent, just over a month ago. But to say that Elimane was completely unknown to me before that reading would be wrong. In high school, already I knew his name. It was listed in The Reader's Guide to Negro Literature, one of those ineradicable anthologies that have been used as reference books for school children in Francophone Africa since colonial times. It was 2008.